Hello everyone, and today we are going to talk about how to install virtual workstation and Ubuntu on it, and then we'll install Java inside that. Now you can also use VirtualBox, but we will go ahead with VMware Workstation. Now if you're using Mac, then I would suggest you to install VMware Fusion. So if you're watching this video from YouTube, please check the description link to know more about our free training program. So before we begin, I would like to show you how can you get access to the softwares, the documentations, and so on. So go to onlinelearningcenter.in, go to our courses, go to free courses, go to Hadoop, click on grab your free course. I would suggest you to log in with your Google account and choose your account and you are signed in. So just say start, agree. Okay. Now we have a tutorial here. Chapter number 6, installing Ubuntu 20 in VMware 16 and Java. Let's click on it. Now, as I scroll down, if you see under your lecture descriptions, we have listed down all the possible tools and software that is required as part of this installation process. I'll also teach you how to download them directly from internet, but then I have given you my Dropbox link so that you can also use it in case you don't find them in the internet anymore. Now, along with this, you can also see there's a small button called download. You click on it and it will download the script file, and whatever script we are going to use, whatever command we are going to use, all those are present in your script.txt. So let me go to the notes. In the notes, you'll see the whole process step by step. We have written it nicely. Just go to next. Again, let me go to next. Again, let me go to next. Again, let me go to next. And if you see all these commands, all these scripts, we have pasted, we have kept it in script.txt, and you can refer that to exactly copy whatever you need. So let's get started now. So I'll open my document. This document is going to help us how to install Virtual Machine Workstation, Ubuntu, and Java. So the prerequisite is like we recommend you to have i5 processor with 4 GB of free RAM and 80 GB of hard disk should be okay. Now, the first thing what you should do is try to figure out if your laptop or desktop supports virtualization or not. You can just use 𝗘𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏 to check if at all your system supports virtualization or not. If it does not support virtualization, then you will not be able to use VMwares. So how do you do that? So let's go to Google and search 𝗘𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏, right? And you get a 𝗘𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏 here. Click on it. And you can just download it from this link, or else you can download it from the link which I have given you. So 𝗘𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏 is downloaded, and let's open this software. Now, when I open this software, the 𝗘𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏 has read my processor details, and it says I have i7 11 Gen processor, and it is a 64-bit length, and most important is the hardware virtualization support is yes. So this is very important. If you don't see hardware virtualization support is yes, then you will not be able to install virtual machines, and you will not be able to use virtual machines. So this is very important. This confirms that your system supports virtualization, and you can definitely go ahead and then start your installations. So the next step is enabling it in your BIOS. Okay, so just check how do you get into this BIOS. Most of the time you may see the shortcuts are escape, F2, F10, depending on the system which you have. But then try to get into your Windows BIOS, and you should check virtualization technology. By default, for most of the systems are disabled, and if that is the case, you just make it enable. Okay, but then I'll assume that it's all enabled. Now we are going to use certain softwares: VMware Workstation, Ubuntu 20, as well as Java 8 64-bit. So let us start with the process one by one. Number one, download and install Virtual Workstation. So again, let's go to Google and say VMware Workstation, and you click on the very first link, and then just go down and say try Workstation 16 Pro, and click on download. So this in turn would give you an option to download it for Linux or Windows. We are going to install this in our Windows system, so we would say download for Windows. Click on this, and then it starts getting downloaded. Next, download Ubuntu 20 ISO file and save it on any location, say under your desktop, under your softwares. So again, how to download that? Again, go to Google and say Ubuntu latest version, and it will take you to Ubuntu website. Click on it, And if you see, you have Ubuntu 20.042.0 LTS, long-term support. So I would suggest you to go ahead with the long-term support. Even though we have Ubuntu 21.04, it's okay to use 20.04. But this tutorial will work on any other Ubuntu versions like 19, 18, and so on. We will go ahead and download Ubuntu 20.04. So just click on download. And let's wait for some time. Now it is around 2.7 gigs, and then it may take some time to download. Next, now once that is done, you have downloaded your Ubuntu, you have downloaded your VM, it's a time to install virtual machine. So we have just downloaded. Let's go ahead and install virtual machine. So let me go to my desktop where I have all the softwares put together. This one, VMware Workstation 16.1, this is what we have downloaded just now. I'll just double click on it, say yes. So now you say next, I agree, next. You can select this or don't select it, does not really matter. Say next, say next, say next, say install. So let's wait for some time, and that should be installed smoothly. So once that is done, if you have license, you can enter, or you can simply say finish. That's absolutely okay. Now it says you must start your system for the configuration changes made to this and that. You can restart now, or you can plan to restart manually. So let me say I would like to restart it later. So I recommend you to restart your system, and let's continue then. So once you have already restarted your system, now what we have downloaded is, we've downloaded this VMware Workstation, we have already installed it. Now we already have this Ubuntu 20.04, which we know how to download, right? So now let's launch our virtual workstation. And let us try to say, create a new virtual machine. And you can say typical and say next. And then choose your ISO file. Where is your ISO file? So let me browse. I'll go to my desktop. I know that I have kept it on my desktop under softwares, and the file is Ubuntu 20.04, and double click on this and then say next. So give some name. I can give a name like Suraj. Username, let me give Suraj. Password, let me give Hadoop. Confirm your password, Hadoop, and say next. Now you can give some name, the virtual machine name. I can say Ubuntu 20.04 with Java 8, right? So you can give any name and then say next. What the minimum disk size you would like to give, right? So I would suggest you to give 80 GB, because while we install a lot of softwares like Hadoop and all, it will eventually grow, right? So 80 GB should be okay. And then let this be split virtual disk into multiple files. That should be okay. Click on next. Now, if you want to configure some hardware, you can also do that. So let us try to configure the hardware. And you can say, hey, I want to give at least 8 GB of RAM, because I know my system has 16 GB. And I would like to give at least 4 processors, because I know that my system has 8 cores. And you can definitely turn this on. That's absolutely okay. That would basically optimize your virtualization stuff. And simply say close. And once this is done, you can click on finished. And now it will start preparing your Ubuntu in this machine, right? It will start reading that ISO file, and will start creating a virtual machine for you wherein you'll have Ubuntu 20. So let us wait for some time. It takes a little time. So we'll look into this step by step. All right, so once this is done, we have our account ready here, right? So let's try to log in. The password would be Hadoop. So we completed this. We created a new virtual machine, and while installation, we gave the username Suraj and password Hadoop, and then we started stuff, right? So one thing to understand here is, if your virtual machine is not enabled, but it is supported, then you will exactly get this error, right? And if you get this error, what you should do is, you should basically go to your BIOS and change your settings, virtualization technology, change it to enabled, and reboot, and it should work. Retry again and it should work. So it takes almost 30 minutes to install this virtual machine. Okay, it may take a little longer for you, but then on an average, it takes at least 30 minutes. All right, so let's try to log into Ubuntu using credential, Suraj and Hadoop. We have done that. I'll go back here. Now you can just say skip, next, next, done. The very first thing what you may be interested to do is maybe check if any updates are required. So click on this Ubuntu software. All right, so we can see explore, install, and updates. Click on updates. and you can just say update all, let everything be updated, password is Hadoop. So looks like the update is all done. You can easily close it now. So we also got another software updater here, which says 340 MB of data would be downloaded. And do you want to install? Let's also install this. Password is Hadoop. Now let me click on this. And if you see, it is basically installing a lot of updates. Okay, so now we are done with this. And if you see, the whole software update is complete. And it took a lot of time, in fact, 30-40 minutes. And then let's try to restart this. We'll just say restart now. Okay, so we have completed till this point. Check the software updater and just click install now. And you'll have to reboot. We have already done that. Now, check if the internet is accessible from Ubuntu or not. This is very important because if you do not have internet, then you will not be able to again do some updates and all, right? So make sure that you also test this out, because sometimes what happens when you restart, you may see the internet is not working, and if that's not working, then you'll have to fix it out. But most likely it should not be an issue. So what we'll do is let's open browser and say google.com. All right, so that means internet is still working, right? So that's great. Let's move on. So if your internet is not working, then you may be interested to change the connections from bridge to net, right? So shut down your virtual machine and go to your settings. You'll see there would be an option from bridge to net, and you can basically take care of it. But then let me show you that also, because I know it's hard for you if it's not working anyways. So I'll just take quick minutes. I'll just say shut down. Okay, now if you see, you can just change your network adapter from NAT to bridge or vice versa if it is not working. So right now it is NAT, and if it is not working, go ahead and then change it to bridge and say okay, and then you restart it, it should work, right? So I'll go ahead with NAT because that works for me. All right, so let's move on. Now if the internet is not working in your MacBook, then probably you may be interested to do these steps, like like stopping your virtual VMnet client and then restarting and configuring it. That should also solve the problem. But then if it still does not work, then there is some other issues. You may have to install the VMware tools and then take it forward. But I'll assume that it will work because most of the time I did not face this anytime. Okay. Now the second thing is check if the copy paste is working or not in your Linux box. So let's do what, let's try to just copy a file, any file, maybe any file. So I'll just say I would like to copy this file, say copy. And let's try to paste it here, right? So if you see, I was able to copy the data from my Windows to Linux box. That means the copy and paste is also working well. Let's move to the next. This is done. Next, now let's try to execute a couple of commands. So I'll open my terminal. So Control, Alt and T will open a terminal for us. And let us try to execute sudo apt-get 𝗚update, which will update your software. It would not take a lot of time. So let's say paste. Password is Hadoop. This should be quick. Done. Okay. Now let us try to say sudo apt-get 𝗚upgrade. So this would try to upgrade all your softwares. And it took a lot of time for me earlier, but let's see how much time it takes. It did not take a lot of time here because we did the same thing using our UI. So that works well. Now again, say a sudo apt-get update, and this should make your system ready to go. All right. So it's all done. Now let's move on. So while you are doing this, you may get across this problem, or anytime when you get across this problem where it says that unable to log this directory or could not get logged, then it means some other resource is using your process. So the best way would be just restart and it should work. Okay, let's move to the next point. Now install a VIM tool. VIM is basically a kind of editor which can help us to write a lot of commands, open a lot of files to edit. So it's always good to have a VIM with us, right? So let's try to install Vim. So the command would be sudo apt-get install Vim. So let's try this out here. Okay, and just say Y, enter. Okay, now let's check this out. So we are done. We have installed VIM successfully. Let's go to the next step. Now install Java, right? So go to Google and just say Java 8 download. You will be taken to Oracle home and just click on it and just go a little down and you can see a lot of packages, right? So I will not suggest you to download JDK latest version or even 11 because most of the software does not work with Java 11. So let us try to stick with only Java 8. Okay, let's go down. Let's see which is the appropriate package we need to download. So we are looking for Linux and we are looking for 64-bit archive. Okay, so this is what I would basically prefer. JDK 8U 301 Linux x64. So click on this and say I accept and say download. So if you do not have an account, it may ask you to sign up into the account. Okay, so if you do not have account, please create your account or you can download it from my link, whatever I've said there. Also I've placed the same thing for you. So I'll say Suraj. All right, it started downloading this. It is downloaded successfully here. Okay, so we have already downloaded Java for you, and if you see, we have the same what we talked about, right? So JDK 8U 301 Linux 64 version. So as I said, I don't recommend you to download any latest version because that would not work in most of the software. So let's stick to JDK 8. Let us try to copy this first into our desktop. So I'll copy this and I'll go to my Ubuntu, and in my Ubuntu on my desktop, let me say paste, right? So the Java JDK 1.8 is already copied here. Now let's move on. Now what we would like to do is we would like to move it to a location, right? So we will use a location called user local Java. So initially there is no such location. Let us try to create a folder. Okay, let us try to create a folder. Copy this and create a folder using this command. Done. Okay, now once this folder is created, next is try to give a permission so that anybody can access this, right? So I'm saying chmod 777, which means give read, write and execute permission to everybody. Okay, and that's done. So in real time you should not basically give 777, you may give 770 or maybe 740 or whatever, right? Or maybe 750 and so on. Now let's try to copy the jar, right? So make sure that this name is chosen correctly. Okay, so you just check what version you have downloaded, because so today you have 301, maybe after 5-10 days you may see 501 and so on. So please make sure that you take this name properly, right? So I'll just go ahead and then say copy the file from my desktop to /user local Java, and I said CP, that means it will copy. Done. So once that is done, you go to this user local Java now, right? So let's go by the notes. So now we will move to user local Java. CD user local Java. Done. Now the next thing is we are here. Now let's try to extract this file. Okay. So the command would be sudo tar xvzf, then your file name, which will extract this zip file to a folder. So let's say paste. Once that is done, let us also try to create a alias, because I really don't want to call JDK 1.80_301 every time. I would like to give a nickname for that. So let us call it JDK, right? So let's copy this and execute here. Okay, so now let me say ls. If you see, I have got JDK, that is basically a symbolic link. You can say ls-ltr to know that JDK is nothing but a nickname which is internally pointing to JDK 1.8.0_301. If you want to get into this JDK 1.8, you can simply say cd JDK. You don't really have to use the whole name, long name, right? So that's what we have done. Once this is done, you can happily delete your tar.gz file because you don't need any more. You have already extracted that into a folder and you have provided some alias for that. So what is left now is your JDK 1.8 and a nickname called JDK. The moment I say JDK, it actually means JDK 1.8.0_301. So once this is done, let us try to configure our Java. Okay, so we will have to edit our etc profile and we need to configure the location of the Java. Okay, so just say sudo vim, and if you remember, vim is the tool which we recently installed, right? So I just want to edit this file. Go till the end and just press I. It will take you to the insert mode. Just take your cursor at the end and hit enter, right? Couple of enters so that you can create some space. Now here what you could do is you can paste this whole command, and I've given this whole command in the notes. You just download the script file as I've told, and you should be able to get all these commands in the script file itself. So say paste, okay, escape:\wq, done. So this is what I want you to do, and this is basically your configuring your Java home. Now you need to tell your Ubuntu system that, hey, by default, whenever somebody talks about Java, it's always use a local Java JDK. Okay, so these two commands would help you to configure your Java locations. So let's try to do that as well. So just say paste, and again I'll go back. I'll execute the next command. Similarly, let me execute the next command as well. Inform your Ubuntu Linux that Oracle, Java, or JDK must be the default one. So the first command, the two command actually tells where are your Java located, right? And then the second, these two commands would basically tell that, okay, whenever somebody says Java or somebody says 𝗙𝗏𝑐, then it should basically go and locate these Java and 𝗙𝗏𝑐 tools. So let's do this as well. Say paste, done. Now once that is done, you can just reload your profile. You can just reload your etc profile because you have just made some changes in that as well, right? So let's say refresh my profile, and once you refresh your profile, let us try to see if we got our Java, right? So let's try to say Java-version. Now if you see, you have successfully configured your Java in your Ubuntu, right? So what we have learned in this tutorial is we have learned how can you install a virtual machine, download the virtual machine and use it, and then how do you install Ubuntu latest, right? It would work with any other versions as well. And then how do you install Java in it, right? So as I said, please make sure that you stick to Java 8 because that's what works best with Hadoop right now. And if you install any updated version, then most likely you might face one or other issues. Okay, all right guys, so that's all I have from this tutorial, and I'll see you in next one.